Great stories often begin with a single moment, a spark that sets everything in motion. For America, these moments have come again and again, each one shaping the nation's destiny in ways both big and small. For the United States, history turned many times in just 10 minutes, on battlefields where the fate of freedom was decided, in courtrooms where justice was debated, or at the launch of a rocket that carried dreams beyond the sky. America's story is fast and full of change. In just a few hundred years, people built a new country from scratch, fought for freedom and equality, and changed the world with bold ideas and relentless energy. Each generation played a role, struggling, believing, sometimes failing, but always moving forward. America's path was never easy. People faced wars, hunger, new lands, and new ideas. They endured hardship, but also found hope in each other and in the promise of tomorrow. Many came seeking hope or a better life, carrying dreams across oceans. Others were already here, living rich and unique lives long before new arrivals stepped ashore. The land was a tapestry of cultures, stories, and traditions. What made America different was its mix of people, ideas, and dreams, a diversity that became its greatest strength. Change came quickly. From small villages to giant cities, from farms to factories, the nation grew and transformed, always reaching for something greater. Sometimes, people made mistakes. Sometimes, they did great things. At each step, America's story was shaped by courage, hope, and the belief that tomorrow could be better than today. This is a story of transformation, a story where just 10 minutes could change everything. Let's look back at how the United States became the nation it is today, and how its journey continues with each new generation. Long before any European ships crossed the ocean, North America was home to many peoples. These indigenous nations created their own ways of life. They built cities, hunted, fished, and farmed the land. Each nation had its own language, laws, and traditions. Some, like the Iroquois Confederacy, formed powerful groups to make decisions together. In the Southwest, the Pueblo people lived in stone houses and grew corn. Along the Mississippi, the mound builders raised great earthworks for ceremonies. Farther north, the Inuit hunted whales and built homes from snow. The land was rich and its people respected nature, believing the earth was shared by all. Trade routes crossed the continent. Goods and ideas traveled from village to village. People shared stories, learned from one another, and found new ways to live. For thousands of years, Native Americans changed and adapted to their world. These first Americans shaped the land and its stories. Their deep connection to nature and each other formed the foundation for all who would come later. In the 1500s and 1600s, people from Europe began to explore North America. Driven by curiosity, ambition, and sometimes desperation, these explorers crossed the vast Atlantic Ocean in search of new opportunities and unknown lands. The journey was long and dangerous, but the promise of a better life inspired many to take the risk. Some came searching for gold, hoping to strike it rich and return home with unimaginable wealth. Tales of golden cities and treasures fueled their dreams, and many risked everything for a chance at fortune. Others wanted religious freedom or, just a new start. For many families, the New World represented hope, a place where they could escape persecution, own land, and build a future for their children. The promise of freedom and opportunity drew people from all walks of life. The English set up their first permanent colony at Jamestown, Virginia, in 1607. Life was hard. Many colonists died from hunger and disease. The settlers faced harsh weather, unfamiliar land, and a lack of food. Survival was a daily struggle, and only the strongest and luckiest made it through those first years. The Powhatan people helped the newcomers survive, teaching them to farm and fish. Without the knowledge and generosity of the Native Americans, the English settlers might not have lasted through those difficult early seasons. The Powhatan shared their skills, showing the colonists how to grow crops like corn and beans, and how to find food in the forests and rivers. Soon after, in 1620, a group called the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth, Massachusetts. They came on a ship named the Mayflower. Their journey was filled with hardship, but their determination to find a place where they could practice their faith freely kept them going. They wanted to worship in their own way. Like Jamestown, the first winter was deadly. Many pilgrims fell ill or died from the cold and lack of food. The harsh New England climate was unlike anything they had known, and survival seemed uncertain. Native people, especially Squanto, showed the pilgrims how to grow corn and find food. Squanto taught them to use fish as fertilizer, which helped their crops grow strong. Thanks to this help, the pilgrims were able to survive and eventually thrive in their new home. Over time, more people arrived. They built towns, traded goods, and created new laws. The colonies began to grow, with bustling marketplaces and new communities forming along the coast. People from different backgrounds came together, shaping a unique society. English colonies spread along the Atlantic coast. Each had its own government, but all answered to the King of England. Colonial leaders met to make decisions, but ultimate authority rested with the distant English crown, setting the stage for future tensions. These first settlements planted the seeds for a new nation. The colonists' courage and the help of native peoples made survival possible, but conflicts soon followed as more land was taken. As the colonies expanded, relationships with Native Americans grew strained, leading to misunderstandings and clashes that would shape the history of America for generations to come. As the colonies grew, problems with England began. The British king taxed the colonists to pay for wars in Europe. Colonists said, "No taxation without representation." They wanted a say in their own laws. Protests and boycotts spread. Events like the Boston Tea Party showed colonists were ready for change. Tensions exploded in 1775. The first shots of the American Revolution rang out at Lexington and Concord. Ordinary people, farmers, shopkeepers, and tradesmen, picked up arms against trained British soldiers. The fight for independence had begun. In 1776, leaders like Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence. It said all people have rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This bold idea inspired people around the world. The war was long and hard, but with help from France and the courage of the Continental Army, the colonists won. America was now free, but freedom was just the beginning. The new nation had to decide how to govern itself and unite its people. After the war, the new country needed rules. In 1787, leaders met in Philadelphia to write the Constitution. This document set up America's government. It balanced power among the President, Congress, and the courts. The Bill of Rights, added soon after, protected freedoms like speech and religion. America soon began to grow. In 1803, the United States bought the Louisiana Territory from France. This doubled its size. People believed it was their manifest destiny to settle all the way to the Pacific Ocean. Explorers like Lewis and Clark mapped the new lands. Settlers traveled west on wagons, searching for land and opportunity. New states joined the Union. Cities grew along rivers and railroads. But not everyone welcomed these changes. The push west often ignored the rights of Native Americans, and others already living on the land. This period was full of promise, and honestly problems too. The nation was growing fast, but old conflicts could not be ignored for long. As more Americans moved west, Native peoples suffered. The government wanted their land for farming and towns. In the 1830s, President Andrew Jackson signed the Indian Removal Act. This forced many tribes to leave their homes in the southeast. The Cherokee and other tribes walked hundreds of miles to new lands in the west. This journey is called the Trail of Tears. Thousands died from hunger, cold, and disease along the way. Families were torn apart. The land they loved was lost forever. Some native nations fought back. Others tried to adapt. But most could not stop the tide of settlers and soldiers. The United States kept growing, but often at a terrible cost to its first peoples. The Trail of Tears reminds us that America's growth often came with pain and injustice. Still, Native Americans found ways to survive and keep their cultures alive. While some Americans moved west, others worked in the fields of the South. Slavery was a cruel system where people were forced to work without pay and had no freedom. Enslaved Africans built much of the country's wealth, especially in the cotton fields. People in the North and South began to argue about slavery. Some wanted to end it, others wanted to keep it. New states in the West had to decide if they would allow slavery or not. The country grew more divided each year. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln was elected president. He wanted to keep the country together and stop slavery from spreading. Southern states feared they would lose their way of life. 11 states left the Union and formed the Confederacy. The nation was now split in two. War was coming, and the future of the United States hung in the balance. The Civil War began in 1861. It was the deadliest conflict in American history. Brother fought brother. Battles raged at places like Gettysburg and Antietam. The Union, led by President Lincoln, fought to keep the country together. The Confederacy wanted to be its own country. Lincoln made a bold move in 1863. He signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This freed enslaved people in the Confederate States. The war turned into a fight for freedom as well as unity. After 4 long years, the Union won. Slavery was ended everywhere in the United States. The 13th Amendment made freedom the law. But the wounds of war and the pain of racism did not heal quickly. The country began to rebuild. Freedmen worked for new rights. The nation promised liberty for all. It was a new beginning, but much work remained. After the Civil War, America changed at a breathtaking pace. Cities grew rapidly as factories rose up, their smokestacks reaching for the sky. The Industrial Revolution transformed quiet towns into bustling centers of industry, drawing people from farms and villages into the heart of urban life. Railroads stretched across the vast land, connecting distant regions and making travel and trade possible like never before. Steel tracks crisscrossed the country, opening up new opportunities and linking communities from coast to coast. Millions of immigrants arrived from Europe, Asia, and beyond, each bringing their hopes, dreams, and cultures to a new world. They passed through places like Ellis Island, eager for a fresh start and a chance to build a better future. These newcomers worked tirelessly in mines, built the railroads that spanned the continent, and toiled in factories. They dreamed of a better life for themselves and their children, often enduring hardship and sacrifice. The nation soon became an industrial powerhouse, producing goods that fueled both American growth and the world's markets. But with progress came new problems. Cities became crowded, and many families lived in cramped, unhealthy conditions. Workers faced long hours, dangerous jobs, and low pay. Overcrowded tenements and harsh working conditions were common, and life was often a daily struggle. While some people became incredibly wealthy, building grand mansions and living lives of luxury, many others remained poor. Yet hope remained strong in the hearts of those striving for something better. People organized, marched, and fought for fair laws, safer workplaces, and the right to vote. Labor unions and activists demanded justice and equality, sparking movements that would change the nation. In the early 1900s, America faced new and difficult tests that would shape its destiny. The country joined World War I, sending soldiers overseas. Then came the Great Depression, a time of hardship, hunger, and uncertainty. Americans worked together to survive, and soon after, World War II demanded even greater sacrifice. Americans fought bravely on distant battlefields and at home, helping to bring peace and freedom to the world. After the war, the United States emerged as a global superpower, its influence reaching across the globe. Suburbs grew, and new opportunities appeared for many families. The Cold War, the Civil Rights Movement, and the space race defined the modern era. Americans faced the threat of nuclear war, marched for justice and equality, and reached for the stars. Americans marched for civil rights, sent astronauts to the moon, and inspired the world with their courage and ambition. Today, America is still changing, shaped by its past and looking toward the future. The nation faces big challenges: poverty, pollution, and deep divisions. Yet, people continue to raise their voices and work for change. But America's story is one of hope, resilience, and the belief that tomorrow can be better than today. In just 10 minutes, everything can change. History is made in moments of courage and unity. America's promise endures, to keep reaching for a brighter, more just tomorrow, together as one nation.